Peter Thiel is one of the most polarizing figures in tech. To some, he's the ultimate contrarian investor. The guy who backed Facebook when it was just a student project, funded SpaceX when rockets kept blowing up, and built Palantir when no one wanted to touch government software. To others, he's divisive, just as known for his politics as his investments. But whatever you think of him, one fact is hard to deny. He has one of the best track record in venture capital investing. In 2005, he launched his venture firm, Founders Fund, built around one simple premise: run towards the ideas that other investors won't touch. Over nearly 2 decades, his portfolio includes some of the biggest names in tech history: Nubank, Airbnb, Wish, Stripe, Anduril. Many of those companies were moonshots at the time, but they perfectly captured the firm's investment philosophy. And that's what makes that list worth studying. So here are Peter Thiel's top investments that turned millions into tens of billions of dollars. 1. SpaceX. When Elon Musk and Peter Thiel sold PayPal to eBay in 2002, they walked away as part of the so-called PayPal mafia. Musk took his own fortune and poured it into 2 new ventures, Tesla and SpaceX. Thiel used his to launch Founders Fund. Just a few years later, their path crossed again. By 2008, SpaceX had already failed 3 straight launches on its Falcon 1 rocket. Musk was running out of money and the company was on the brink of collapse. Elon Musk was nearly out of money after pouring his PayPal fortune into the venture. Even his Tesla investment was training him. At this exact moment, Founders Fund was only a few years old. They'd been backing software companies, but Peter's business partner, Luke Nosek, was convinced SpaceX represented a type of frontier tech the firm should back. Bold, capital-intensive, and world-changing if it worked, they wrote a small $5 million check. But then Musk needed real money, tens of millions, to survive. Most VCs laughed SpaceX off. Aerospace was considered uninvestable, capital-hungry, dominated by government contracts, and with almost no history of big outcomes. Inside Founders Fund, there was a debate. Should they risk serious money on rockets? Obviously, Luke Nosek won out and quadrupled their exposure, pushing the partnership to commit $20 million more at the exact moment of crisis. That single decision is often described as the turning point that saved both SpaceX and Founders Fund's future reputation. The 4th launch succeeded, SpaceX secured NASA contracts, and over the following years, it would pioneer reusable rocket technology, slash launch costs, and create Starlink, a satellite internet service with global reach that's very profitable today. Founders Fund eventually invested $671 million in total, and as of 2024, that stake was worth about $18.2 billion, so a 27x multiple. The near-death $20 million rescue round became the backbone of their single greatest portfolio win. 2. Palantir. Palantir is the company most closely associated with Peter Thiel. In fact, he didn't just invest in it, he co-founded it. And from the very beginning, it was one of the most controversial bets in Silicon Valley, but also one of his most successful. So here's the backstory. After 9/11, US intelligence agencies were drowning in data, but struggling to make sense of it. Peter Thiel believed the same anti-fraud software PayPal had built to fight Russian hackers could be adapted for counterterrorism. In 2003, he teamed up with Alex Karp, Joe Lonsdale, and others to create Palantir, a company that promised to help analysts connect the dots across massive datasets. But Palantir broke all the rules of Silicon Valley investing. It sold almost exclusively to governments. It took years to land its first contract, and it immediately became polarizing. Civil Liberties Group accused it of building surveillance tools. Supporters said it was helping prevent terrorist attacks and fraud. Thiel's reputation for backing mission companies was cemented here. Most VCs wouldn't go near Palantir, but Thiel seeded it personally and then ran it through Founders Fund as the company scaled. The CIA's venture arm, In-Q-Tel, became the first outside backer, an endorsement that gave Palantir credibility inside Washington, but also amplified the controversy outside of it. Founders Fund quietly supported it for years, and then the company went public in 2020. In 2024, Founders Fund's stake was worth around $3 billion, about an 18.5x multiple. For Thiel, Palantir showed that a government-focused company, which most investors wouldn't touch, could still scale into the billions, which would shape his fund's biggest investments. 3. Anduril. Anduril Industries, founded in 2017, builds defense systems based on software and autonomy. Drones, counter-UAS system, virtual border towers, and a platform called Lattice that fuses battlefield data. Unlike most Peter Thiel investments, Anduril wasn't discovered. He helped create it. The idea came from one of Founder Fund's partners, Trey Stevens, who had worked at Palantir and served on the US defense policy transition team. He believed the US defense establishment was broken, dominated by legacy contractors building outdated software, while adversaries like China were racing ahead in autonomy and drones. Stevens teamed up with Palmer Luckey, who had founded Oculus VR as a teenager and sold it to Facebook for $2 billion. Luckey had been ousted from Facebook and wanted his next act. Together, they launched Anduril out of Southern California. The founding team explicitly styled Anduril as new prime contractor, a company willing to work hand in glove with the Pentagon, but moving at Silicon Valley speed. So Anduril embraced military contracts, building autonomous systems and AI-driven surveillance towers. From day one, Founders Fund was all in. Peter Thiel invested aggressively, committing capital round after round. It became the single largest position by dollars invested in Founder Fund's history, $1.4 billion. By 2024, Anduril had won major contracts with the US Department of Defense, the UK military, and Australia. The company is now worth tens of billions of dollars, and its rise validated Thiel's long-standing thesis that Silicon Valley must re-engage with defense, not abandon it. Founder Fund's stake in Anduril today is worth $5.3 billion, with many expecting it to double or triple in the coming years, so they can probably expect a 10x on that money. Remember, a 10x on more than $1 billion. Pretty impressive. Number 4, Airbnb. By 2012, Airbnb had traction, but most investors still thought it was a joke. That's when Peter Thiel and Founders Fund made their boldest move yet, a $150 million bet that would shock Silicon Valley. Founded in 2008 by Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia at Y Combinator, the story of Airbnb's early days is almost too scrappy to believe. Chesky and Gebbia started by renting out air mattresses in their San Francisco apartment during a design conference, calling it Air Bed and Breakfast. To raise money, they sold cereal boxes during the 2008 election, Obama's and Captain McCain's. Most investors dismissed them. The idea of strangers sleeping in strangers' homes seemed niche, unsafe, and unscalable. By 2012, Airbnb had traction, but the skeptics remained. Founders Fund had an analyst, Napoleon Ta, who dug deep into the numbers. He studied Airbnb and realized they were following a steep, repeatable pattern. Once enough hosts and guests reached a tipping point, the platform became unstoppable. Armed with this analysis, he went to Thiel, and Founders Fund made its biggest move yet, a $150 million investment at a $2 billion valuation. It was at the time their most aggressive investment. Sequoia, which had backed Airbnb earlier, was shocked at how quickly and decisively Peter Thiel's fund moved. The bet paid off, of course, in spectacular fashion. Airbnb spread globally, scaled into millions of listings, and redefined travel. Its 2020 IPO became one of the biggest in tech history. Founder Fund's stake returned nearly $4 billion to LPs. That's about a 25x multiple, making it one of Founder Fund's largest wins. 5. Stripe. When two young Irish brothers walked into Thiel's office in 2010, their pitch was simple: 7 lines of code that would fix online payments. Thiel backed them within 2 hours. Even if you don't know it, there's a chance to use Stripe every day. Stripe builds payment infrastructure for the internet, making it easy for developers to integrate credit card processing into any app or website. At the time, adding payments to a website was a nightmare of compliance, banks, and fraud tools. The Colisand built an API that lets developers get started in minutes. When they met Peter Thiel, he did not hesitate. Within 2 hours of meeting them, he agreed to invest, and he knew firsthand from PayPal how broken payments were. As Stripe grew, the Colisand brothers considered branching into side projects. Thiel gave them his characteristic blunt feedback: focus on your core until you dominate it. Don't chase Act 2 too early. The brothers listened, and Stripe became the backbone of internet commerce. Over the years, Founders Fund accumulated more than $600 million worth of Stripe stock. Stripe grew into one of the most valuable private companies in the world, used by millions of businesses globally. As of 2024, Founder Fund's stake was worth around $4 billion, a 6.5x multiple, not the highest multiple in the portfolio, but an anchor investment in one of tech's most durable company. 6. Facebook, the world's dominant social network. Founded in 2004 by Mark Zuckerberg and his Harvard classmates. In summer 2004, Sean Parker, Napster co-founder and then Facebook's president, introduced Zuckerberg to Peter Thiel. At the time, Facebook was still the Facebook, a scrappy college network. Most investors didn't take it seriously. MySpace and Friendster already dominated, and Zuckerberg looked like a kid playing startup. But Thiel wrote a $500K angel check at a $5 million valuation, the first outside money into Facebook. That one check eventually returned over $1 billion. When Founders Fund launched, it doubled down on its investment with $8 million across Series B and Series C rounds of Facebook. In the Series B, Thiel underled and got worse terms, a mistake he later admitted. But in Series C, he course corrected and leaned in harder. The rest is history. Facebook grew into a global giant, rebranded as Meta, and minted fortunes. Founders Fund's $8 million grew into $365 million, a 40x multiple. Thiel's personal $500K became over $1 billion. More importantly, Facebook gave Founders Fund its credibility. Every pitch to LPs had this single fact: our partner was the first outside investor in Facebook. So now I want to hear about you. What do you think of Peter Thiel and his investments? Please let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you next week.